Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. Today we're talking with Daphne Birdsinger. Daphne is a mom of three with one son, Clifford, who has special needs. She's a former teacher and wellness enthusiast. Let's hear what Daphne has to say about her support of the Ronald McDonald House. Hey y'all, I just want to remind you that I need you to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. If you're enjoying it and want more conversations like this, and want to help people get more involved with philanthropy, please subscribe, rate, and review. I want to thank you to the people who have already rated this podcast 5 stars. Please click to rate it 5 stars. And here is some awesome reviews. I love hearing the different stories from a variety of people's personalities. We all can contribute with the strengths we have in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. Here's another one. I really enjoy this podcast. It's encouraging to see that I don't have to be a multimillionaire who created a philanthropic foundation to impact people. It's my small gifts of my time and resources that add up. I am a philanthropist. And here's another. There are opportunities all around at an early age to remind us to look out for each other. It's a lifelong journey of seeing the opportunities and acting in them. Thanks for a great reminder. Listeners, please do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review right now so more people can hear more from us and learn more about philanthropy.
You are the kind of person who wants to improve the lives of others, but you need to take pride in your everyday actions. You Are a Philanthropist believes that every act of goodwill deserves to be recognized as philanthropy. Each individual action you take impacts another's life. Believe that what you do makes a difference. So call yourself a philanthropist and start a ripple effect of generosity that boomerangs back to you. Go to youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Style your outside to match your inside. Choose a t-shirt, hoodie, or bag to show how much you love giving to others. That's youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Welcome to the show, Daphne.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. This has been a long time in the works because we've been working together with Arbonne for 2 years now, and I've gotten to know your story. It's a really encouraging one about all the work that you do for the Ronald McDonald House and caring for your son, Clifford. And I'm really excited to share your story with my podcast listeners.
Yeah, I'm really excited to share my story too. I think it's one of my favorite things to do is to share my story. I think that's one of the ways God works in us, in our lives, is that, things happen to us and then we have a story that we can share and hopefully impact other people. So super.
Amen.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about the Ronald McDonald House and what they do and then how you got involved with them?
Sure. Yeah. So the Ronald McDonald House is, in a sense, it's sort of like a hotel. That's one way you can think of it. But they are all located right next to hospitals. And their goal is to keep families close. So when you have a sick child who goes into the hospital for overnight stays for surgery or procedures, or they're sick and they're there for a long time, sometimes people don't live right next to the hospital. So they're having to commute every day. And some people live hours away. Some people live, an hour away, but then you add commuting time. And it's just a lot of extra stress on a family to do that. So your option is to find a hotel close to the hospital. And for a lot of people with medical costs and everything, that's not an option. And so the Ronald McDonald House it's a house, where families can book a room and stay there for minimal cost if they can. But if they can't afford it, donations from the public help allow the house to provide for them. And it is more than just a hotel. I mean, it's like a wonderful bed and breakfast. They have activities for the kids. They have a full, huge kitchen. And volunteers come in and prepare meals as well. So they don't have to worry about eating out all the time and spending money on food. There's a full stocked kitchen, and a lot of times volunteers bring in warm meals for them. And they have a lot of other resources for families as well. Just help in that process of what do you do when you've got a sick child. But it's just a really cozy place where they can be and be minutes away from the hospital if something arises, or trying to get there 8:00 in the morning to catch the rounds that the doctors make. And you don't want to miss those and be caught in traffic, because they usually start around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's kind of the main thing. There's a lot of other little things that they do, but I mean, that's the main service that they provide, is keeping families close. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like a wonderful organization, and I'm so glad that McDonald's created it for families and children in need. Yeah.
So I guess you asked also how I got involved with it. It's kind of a funny story. It's not funny. This is one of those instances where I know it was a God thing. My husband works for Southwest Airlines, and the charity that they support is Ronald McDonald House. So every year, my husband, this is before we got married, my husband used to coordinate volunteers at his work at the airport to come and make meals at the house. And they would do it twice a year. In fact, just yesterday, he was frying turkeys at the Fairfax house, or baking cookies at baking turkeys at the Fairfax house, and making meals for them so that the families will have Thanksgiving meals. So he'd already been doing this. And then they started, and I can't remember the exact date, but they started doing the Ronald McDonald 5K as a fundraiser. And I want to say they started it, gosh, I can't remember the exact number, but it's been over, 12 years, something like that, 10 years at least. And so my husband had done it twice before we got married. And the first race that I ran, at the end of it, my husband proposed to me.
Oh.
So it became like, that race became like kind of a really, special thing for us. Little did we know that the next year we would find ourselves there. So he proposed to me in March. We were married in August, and immediately I was pregnant after we got married. And it was kind of a rough pregnancy, but it was my first, so I didn't know any different. But I ended up on bed rest at 28 weeks. And I was a former teacher. I walked out of my classroom, went to the hospital, and found myself on bed rest for a month. And when Clifford was born, he was born in Arlington Hospital in Northern Virginia. And we knew, because he was born early, he was going to need support. But the third day, when I was being discharged, the NICU doctor came up and said that they were seeing what they thought were seizures, and they wanted to transfer him to Children's Hospital in DC. And that's when our world just completely pivoted. And so we hopped in the ambulance, went through the bumpy roads all the way through DC, and got there. And that week was probably one of the hardest weeks of my life. We had no idea what was going on with him. And that first day, he was on a ventilator, just tubes everywhere, and so tiny. He was 32 weeks at that point. And, I had only held him once before we left. And thankfully, a physical therapist that I was friends with had encouraged me to like snag him and do some kangaroo time before they took him off, because we knew that I might not get to hold him for a couple days. And that was a huge blessing, because that was the case. And I tell you what, that first day, I was so tired. I was so exhausted. And we had no option at the end of the day at like 10 p.m. and we stayed with him every minute. But then we had to go home because we couldn't spend the night in the NICU room, in the NICU. And that was in DC, and we were all the way out in Herndon, which was like an hour away, and with traffic farther. And Shane and I left, and here, I had just given birth to him, but he had Clifford, but he had been in my womb, part of me, for 7 months. And I get home, and my husband, this is all men, he just passed out. As a woman, I could not sleep. I laid there. I could not sleep. I tossed and turned. And I remember getting up and going into the bathroom. And all of a sudden, I had this overwhelming sense of Clifford's absence from me. And he was so far away. I could do nothing for him. And I had a horrible anxiety panic attack. And just thinking about it, it was just knowing how far away he was. And the one thing that I felt like I could do for him was be with him. And I couldn't even do that. And so I can't even remember if I slept at all that night. But as soon as the sun rose, I was like, Shane, we're going. We got to get back there. I didn't want to wait at all. Thankfully, our church was incredible, and they'd been caring for us with meals throughout my bed rest. Well, we were able to reach out to them, and they actually provided us a hotel for the next night. And praise God, it just was probably the first time I'd slept in a couple days. But then, as we're at the hospital, somebody mentioned the Ronald McDonald House as an option, and Shane's like, "Oh, wait. I know the person at Ronald McDonald House who's the office manager, because I'm working with volunteering, because the social worker at Children's Hospital had said that it might be a really long time to get on the waiting list. If there's not it might take a little while to do the process to get in there. But thankfully, Shane had a connection. We were able to smoothly move in. So Clifford was born on Monday. Saturday night, we were able to stay at the Ronald McDonald House, and it changed everything this was a hard time. But for almost 3 months, we lived at the Ronald McDonald House in DC. And every morning Shane would get up and go to work, and I would get up and hop the shuttle from the Ronald, like a block down from the Ronald McDonald House, and I would go over to the hospital, and I would spend my day by Clifford's bedside, watching machines, praying that he would breathe on his own, and navigating all the different specialists that came in and out, trying to figure out what was going on with him, and whether or not he would breathe on his own. After about 3 weeks, we discovered, we really had to come to terms with the fact that he probably was not, at least for the foreseeable future. And so we had to make the hard decision to get a trach for him. Basically, the only way for us to bring him home and to care for him was to have him have a trach, have a G tube, and also have him on a ventilator. He is now 7.5 years old. Still with a trach, still with a ventilator, still with a G tube. But that kid is incredible. And, he's amazing, the joy of my life. But that time in the hospital was hard. And there's a lot of things that I learned from that experience. Namely, the importance of taking care of myself. And that's kind of where my heart for giving back kind of began, with that everyday struggle in the hospital.
Wow. I love how God provided the Ronald McDonald House for you right when you needed it, and right when you guys had already been involved with it. I mean, that's really a unique story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love how both you can give and receive to the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah. Yeah. When we left, we did a mini fundraiser, and in order to pay for our stay, because we wanted to be able to give back. So we bought t-shirts and sold them to our friends that say Free Clifford on them. So we were going to bust him out. And we had a lot of fun with that. It was just, he wore a little like jail suit on the day we put him out.
That's awesome.
And people took pictures wearing their Free Clifford t-shirt, like all over, just kind of with the sense that we are going to expose Clifford to the world and all of God's creation in whatever way we can. And that's kind of been our philosophy with him. We don't just leave him in his room. We really try to get him out and about. But yeah.
Good. And I know you actually continue to have runs with the Ronald McDonald House, and you wear your Free Clifford shirts, and continue to have that community around you who supports your family.
Yeah. So I think, the first couple years we really just ran. But I think it was around 2019, and partly in conjunction with my involvement with Arbonne, I really started seeing from that part of my life how I actually had an ability to give back. And looking back at my own story in the hospital, how hard it was. And I think this is the story for so many moms, so many caretakers. And I think people at some point in everybody's life, you're going to be a caretaker. And whether that's parents, friends, neighbors, kids, a pet, somebody, you are going to have to care for some, and maybe it's even yourself, but you're going to have to take care of somebody. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you don't have anything to give. And I really found, because I had been participating with Arbonne's nutrition program. And so I learned all these tricks and easy ways to stay healthy that were super easy and at my fingertips. And that's what saved me from having to just eat junk out of the snack machine. And so, back in 2019, I started seeing this vision of like, if I could get little nutrition packets and deliver them to the Ronald McDonald House, because they give welcome bags when a family comes, and they put, stuff to take care of themselves in it. But there was very little in the realm of nutrition and healthy stuff, which I know, it feels good to have a candy bar, but that candy bar is not going to sustain you and your brain and for the hard work. And so my daughter and I called everybody I knew to donate money to help us purchase nutrition products and put little bundles together. And so we tied them up, we put them in little shaker cups, and our family went back in, it was August, I think, of 2019. And we delivered all these, little shaker cups full of nutrition products from Arbonne. And so that kind of really started it. And I realized how many people wanted to help with that. And so the next time that the Ronald McDonald House 5K came around, I just sort of started doing that, either raising funds, encouraging people with our story to give money, because I think at the time, and it may be more now, but it's $15 basically is the cost for a night. And so giving $15 in increments. And I each year I tried to, the first year I tried to have people raise enough money to cover the 80 days that we had stayed. And then when we matched that goal, then the next time we did, I was like, okay, let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. And so I've just been blown away. And so this past year, it was incredible. I put a goal of $3,000. It was a scary goal for me, but I ended up reaching out to everybody that I knew, and so many people supported. And for the Ronald McDonald House 5K is something that the Washington, D.C. area, their chapters do. And our family ended up getting the highest individual sponsorship.
Congratulations.
We raised the most money for an individual group.
That's awesome.
And that's all Clifford. And it was such a blessing. And plus I still gathered nutrition supplies as well. And it's just really nice to be able to give back. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love how you said it's such a blessing, because I can tell that you're saying it's a blessing for you, not just the Ronald McDonald House, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Good. And I loved how you talked about caring for yourself. And it's something, as a young mother, is how I also found Arbonne. Arbonne is the organization that we share healthy living products with friends and family. And I lost weight on that program. I know you gained energy on their healthy living program, and that's why we became involved with Arbonne, and that's why we like to share it. And in my book that's coming out in January, Giving is Selfish, I talk about both the importance of self-care and generosity and how those relate to each other, and giving is receiving and giving is living, and your health is your wealth. So it feels good to give, and it's hardwired in us to enjoy the giving process, is what I really believe.
Right.
I want to talk about what your advice is to people who want to be involved with a charity, want to be more generous with their time, talent, and treasure, maybe don't know where to start or need to discern how to get started.
Yeah, I think that, like I said in the beginning, I think we all have a story. We've all faced challenges, and God uses those for us to impact the world with. I know before Clifford was born, I did some volunteering, but I didn't feel like I had such a purpose behind it. But I was always looking. And I think that sometimes you just need to wait patiently and look, just be more observant around you and watch your own story and think about, and, sometimes we don't think about some of our weaknesses as gifts. For another example, I have ADD. I used to think that was such a horrible thing, and yet it was a gift to me when I was a teacher. I didn't realize it in the beginning, but the number of students that I was able to impact because I got it, I understood where they were coming from. And so I think that that's kind of really important, is to just slow down and not to stop looking, because moving a parked car is hard. But if you just roll a little bit, and I'm stealing an analogy that I heard at my MOPS session yesterday, but if you just gather, daily information from your own life and kind of look around you slowly, eventually something is going to click, I think. And maybe there will be a big aha moment, but I can't say that initially when, we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, I never in a million years would I imagine that I would just be fundraising for them. I mean, that was 7 years later. But I think starting small and starting where you are in your own world is key. And God will provide what's needed for you to make change. And, he'll keep the ball rolling. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best advice, is to look into your own life and see what challenges you've had or are having. And the best way that you can help somebody else is by thinking about how you've been helped and strategies that you've done for yourself. And I know that that's how I know I needed nutrition. I needed to take care of myself, and I needed a place to stay. And so, that's where I started.
I love it. I love how you described that it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it kind of can reveal itself to you over time. And, I'm thinking it's the week before Thanksgiving, and it's the giving, the time of recording this podcast it is, but, and it's that time of year where we're celebrating charity and love and the giving season. And it's a great time of year to do a little bit extra than we normally do throughout our busy, hectic lives. I hope everybody, all my listeners, have a chance to slow down and think about, what can I do today or over the next month before we head into this new year, or what are my goals in the new year for being charitable? I think that's something that I need myself to be thinking about as well. Yeah. And I just want to, I always end on a question that means a lot to me, which is, what's your vision for a better world? I'm always curious when I speak with philanthropists about how they would love to see the world changed for the better. And all my podcast guests are change makers. And so I'm curious, what's your vision for a better world?
So my vision for the world, I wish that people would slow down. And, I really do think that taking care of yourself is so important. It's very easy to let things go, like our health, to not exercise, to not, do something simple like wash our face, or, to reach for something healthy instead of, or something not, it's just really easy to skip little things. And I think that over time, those little choices that we make have a huge impact. And I want to be, when I'm a grandmother, I want to be able to play and care for and give back to my kids. My mom has done a great job of taking care of herself, and she's a servant and pours into her grandkids. But there's the only reason why she is able to do that at almost 80 years old in a week. Not 80 years, she's 79. That's my dad just turned 80. But she gets down with the kids. And that's my vision, is that people can still have an impact when they're older, because they've taken care of themselves now when they're younger. And that even when you're older, you still have an opportunity to make change. And it all starts with taking care of yourself. And if you can take care of yourself, it's not a bad thing, like not to feel guilty about that it is selfless to take 5 minutes for meditation, for prayer, for breathing, for exercise, for these little small things for ourselves. It has a great impact on our own attitude, which has a ripple effect in our own health has a ripple effect on everyone that we love now and in the future. So I think that hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I love how you talk about the importance of self-care, self-love, and how self-love can be impactful in the world and is so important to ourselves, but also when we start giving to others. And I just want to quickly plug your favorite charity, Ronald McDonald House. They can go to rmhc.org or find their local chapter or directly donate on their website, rmhc.org.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much, Daphne. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.